Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and I am going to do a 3 Inks Thursday. This is number 15 in this series. With a 3 Inks, I take 3 inks, I swatch them on 3 different papers with 3 different nib sizes, just so we can look at the difference. Because the wonderful thing about fountain pens is that or I guess I should say fountain pen ink, is you're going to have a different experience with it based on the paper and the nib size that you use. So, and it's just a lovely way to play with inks. Which I always enjoy. So for today, the 3 papers, I'm going to continue to explore the Life Bank paper, the Clairefontaine paper, and Tomoe River. And I also will continue to use the TWSBI Go in fine, medium, and stub. The inks are Sailor California, Aurora Borealis, Diamine Aurora Borealis, and Van Diemen's Mandarin Duck Nape. This is inspired by a viewer who commented on the video, I think for number 14, that they would like to see kind of a teal turquoisey color. So let's get swatching. I do use a Kakimori brass nib pen to do the swatches on each of the papers, and I also have just a white t-shirt that I will use to dry things off, and a mason jar of water. Just keeping it real simple, and let's get started. I did not pre-plan the order, so we're just gonna dive in. And I do like to do a nice big swatch, just so that we get to see the color, the shading, any sheening. I do not have any shimmer inks this week. All right, so starting with the fine nib, and I just dip it. And let me just move this to give my hand some landing space. So this is Sailor. This is part of the 50 States series. I'm going to rinse that, and then I place the nib on the white t-shirt in order to absorb as much of the water as possible until the next ink. And it is California. And then using the stub, I'm just going to write some letters. Now, I actually used this pen a few days ago to write a letter to a student that we had discussed towards the end of the school year. The student was having a really hard time with the anticipation of going on summer break and missing school, which just warmed my heart. And so We talked about some things to look forward to and channeling those emotions. And one of the things that I offered was to send a letter in July and a letter in August. And that seemed to be something the student would look forward to. So I wanted to use the stub nib because I also wanted to use a really fun ink that I thought the student would enjoy. And so I inked it up, and I struggled writing with a stub nib. I think I need to get together with Zen of the Pen and get some practice, get some lessons. It likely is that I'm not holding it the right way against the paper. I'm not quite sure. This, by the way, this ink feels more lubricated than the Sailor California. Just I'm not getting as much streaking. It's coming off the brass nib much more smoothly. So I'm not going to give up, but oops, capped it. I'm gonna pull a 14. I think it was 14, and forget to do any of the writing samples. All right, so this is Diamine. Aurora Borealis. I'm going to try my hardest to spell this the right way. Aurora Borealis. There we go. I wish I could show you my pup. She's in here with me. I've got the house to myself, so I get to leave the door open to the room that I do my filming in. And she's just hanging out. Yeah, so another thing I might try next time, because I know when I dip it, it writes really well. So I might just try dipping it in writing. We'll see. All right, and then the final one is Van Diemen's Mandarin Duck Nape. Make sure I get all the moisture out of that nib. I always feel like I'm playing a game of Operation when I put this in, trying not to touch the edges, which I completely failed on as I moved it to show you. Oh, that's bright. Interesting. These are ultimately very different colors, but they go well together. All right, and again, starting with the fine, I'll just move my paper clip up. That's a little bit of a mess, that's fine. Mandarin duck nape. Got some ink on my fingers. I was recently telling someone that inked up their first converter, and I said, if you don't get ink on your fingers, you did it wrong. And once they got ink on their fingers, I said, now you can say you are part of the fountain pen community. Obviously, I was being facetious. There we go. All right, let's have a little chat about these. So some things that I'm seeing right off the bat is California has this really nice red sheen to it, which I actually expected or anticipated Aurora Borealis to have. Not, that's fine. Mandarin duck nape also has a little bit coming out on the Tomoe River paper. There's, sticking with Sailor 50 States, California, on all three papers, it's a very complex and interesting ink that is almost a little bit more green versus it gets a little bit more blue in the Clairefontaine and Tomoe River, which it's a really fascinating, lovely ink. On the bank paper, that's my favorite, I think. For the Aurora Borealis, it's definitely more saturated on Clairefontaine and Tomoe River, which could be that I had a little bit of water still in that brass nib. I'm unsure about that, but the shading really comes out in the Clairefontaine paper comparatively to Tomoe River and Life Bank. For the Van Diemen's, it's, again, the shading is much more pronounced with the Clairefontaine and Tomoe River. With it being a little bit more pronounced, you've got that really, really light part in the Clairefontaine, but then you've got that bit of red sheen coming out in the Tomoe River. A little bit more flat, a little bit more green on the Life Bank paper. And if I were to have planned ahead and ordered, put this in order, I may have done... Actually, depends on the paper. Based on the Clairefontaine, I actually would have kept it in this very order, probably the same for the Tomoe River. The Life Bank paper, I may have flipped these two. So, for being random, it's not bad. All right, so that is my 3 inks Thursday, number 15. Again, leave a comment if you would like to put in a request for a comparison. My next one, again, by request, will be some muddy colors, some muddy, murky colors, which I've got. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like, all that good stuff. And I will certainly be back next week with a 3 inks Thursday, number 16. Bye.